Correct.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeannie Sparks. I'm a co-executive director of Santa Barbara County Action Network. And we are having our combined roundtable. We have these once or twice a month. Sometimes it's a North County roundtable, or sometimes South County, or sometimes we combine it if the issues are countywide. And today they're countywide. We'll be talking about marine protected areas and save our sanctuaries, save our marine sanctuaries, are two main topics on our agenda. Then we'll also talk about any other issues that anybody wants to bring up. But after we talk about the first one, the marine protected areas, then we'll ask for comments, questions. And so now I would like to start. Well, I'd like to have anybody, I'd like to introduce our other staff members. We have Ken Huff, who's co-executive director, and we have Nancy Avos, who is our assistant director. And if anybody would like to introduce themselves, we'll do it quickly because there's so many people. Let's go ahead and start with Andy.
Sorry, you said me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sandy, yes.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I am Sandy Aylesworth, and I am director of the Pacific Initiative for the Oceans Program for the Natural Resources Defense Council.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. And I'll just go quickly just go down the way I see you on the screen. Whitney.
Whitney Winna, Santa Barbara Sports Fishing Club.
Okay, thank you. Airstone.
Erson Julian, Mayor, City of Guadalupe.
And Bella. Oh, sorry, go ahead. And Bella.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bella Sullivan. I'm with NRDC and their Oceans Division. It's great to be here and meet you all. And happy Valentine's. What better way to spend Valentine's than talking about how much we love the ocean. So
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, and Bo. Bo doesn't have their microphone on. So when you get your microphone on, if you'd like to introduce, oh, there you go.
Sorry, I'm just listening in here.
Okay, fine. Let's see, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Hines, and I am with the Sierra Club.
Karen.
Karen, you said?
Yeah. Karen, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Karen.
hi. I'm Karen Mays. I'm with the North County SBCAN and League of Women Voters. I haven't been very active, but I thought it's time to tune in.
Great, good to see you. Robert Gibson. And you're muted.
Okay,
There you go.
Here we go. So Robert Gibson, I live in Santa Maria, and I engage with a lot of our North County local nonprofits, and I work for UDW, the IHSS Home Caregivers Union.
Thank
you. Cliff Solomon.
Cliff Solomon in Santa Maria. Actually, I'm going to be turning my phone off. Pam and I ate at Ember in Arroyo Grande last night, and I have leftovers. So anyway, but good to see everybody.
Enjoy your lunch. Thanks. Steph Wald.
Hi, Steph Wald here from Creeklands Conservation. We've been working with SBCAN on water quality issues in the Santa Maria River watershed.
And thanks, Steph. And Jamie Diamond.
Hi, Jamie Diamond, Stardust Sport Fishing in Santa Barbara Landing, as well as a Carpinteria local and president of the school board for Carpinteria Unified School District.
Wonderful. Welcome. Linda Honigman.
Linda Honigman, affordable housing advocate and also supportive neighborhoods.
Wonderful. Thank you. Vijaya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vijaya Jamalamarika. I've lived in Santa Barbara for 49 years this year, and I retired from the Air Pollution Control District, and I'm on the board of the EDC, the Environmental Defense Center. And I'm really looking forward to hearing this presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Jeff Mason, or I may not have said that right.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Mawson. I'm California Sea Urchin Diver. I'm here with California Sea Urchin Divers Network, and I'm also on the Santa Barbara County Fish and Game Commission representing commercial fishing.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming. Linda Phillips.
Hi, I'm Linda Phillips. I'm just representing myself today, but I belong to a number of organizations here, and my specialty is hazardous materials. So
Okay.
a lot of the things that SBCAN talks about.
Thank you for joining us.
And I don't know whether I'm a member of SBCAN right now or not, but
Well,
it should be.
We'll check and send you a membership renewal. I'm sure you
Okay.
are. Okay. Art Meyer.
Yeah, I'm a longtime Carpinteria resident, free diver, fisherman, and I was involved in the MLPA process as a stakeholder 20, 30 years ago, whenever that happened. Just want to hear what's going to happen here to my carp reef.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here. Tamara Teitelbaum.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm a longtime fisherman, and just want to see what this is all about and voice my considerations.
Wonderful. Glad you're here. Thank you. Like,
Oh, I guess you gave my name. Mark Bradley. These days I'm head of the Sierra Club Political Committee and interested in all of these issues.
wonderful. Thank you for being here. Judy Stauffer.
Hi, I'm a longtime Santa Barbara County and San Ynez Valley resident and just listening in because I'm interested.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Ava Schulenberg.
Hello, my name's Ava Schulenberg. I'm the Executive Director of the California Lobster and Trout Fishermen's Association, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara, which Jeff Mawson and Jamie Diamond are members of. And I'm a second generation commercial fisherman myself, and I am just here to listen in and to learn. So thanks for hosting this.
Okay, thank you for being here. Scott Fina.
Hi, I'm just a guy interested in the ocean and marine life. I read all of Rachel Carson's books when I was a teenager, and I don't know.
Great, great. Thanks. Alan Diaz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Diaz Correa. I'm the Climate Associate with the Community Environmental Council. I'm also on the SBCAN board and part of the Fund for Santa Barbara Grant Making Committee. I have some projects here in North County, and so I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. And did I miss anybody? Okay, so let's go ahead. I would like to introduce Sandy Aylesworth and Bella Sullivan, who will give us a presentation on proposed MPAs, marine protected areas off of Point Sal and Carpinteria. So take it away. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us. Bella's going to work on sharing slides, but I will just get us started. I wanted to first just thank everyone so much for coming. It's such a privilege to get to interact directly with so many members of Santa Barbara County who are all clearly doing such interesting and important work. I wanted to let you all know that my relationship to California started when I was a deckhand on the Tullamore, a tall ship that brought California school kids to the Channel Islands. And from there, I started a 10-year career working on mostly educational sailing vessels, but I also got to work on science deployments in Antarctica. So I'm a 500-ton ocean captain, and that was my entree into ocean policy, and then also just sort of my deep love for the California coast came through that sort of first touch of working on the Tullamore. But that is not what you're here to hear about. I'm just going to set the stage, and then Bella is going to go into the details of both the Point Sal and the Mashopshno Marine Protected Area proposals that NRDC is a sponsor of. So first, just the policy context, Bella, you can go to the next slide, is that California has joined the global 30 by 30 movement. A few years ago, dozens of scientists from around the world came together and said, there is a biodiversity crisis. And in light of the biodiversity crisis, we are calling upon governments worldwide to significantly ramp up protections, both on land and in the ocean. And for both environments, they said we need to be protecting roughly 30% of representative habitats to arrest the biodiversity crisis that we are facing. Many of you probably know we are in the midst of an extinction event. There are roughly 1 million species that are expected to go extinct on the current trajectory that they're on. Governor Newsom, in response to this call for action, issued an executive order saying California is going to participate in 30 by 30. We are one of the world's biodiversity hotspots, and California will be ramping up its own ocean and land protections. So Governor Newsom issued the 30 by 30 executive order, and then later on, the state legislature of California codified it in its own law. So that's the backdrop. Anyway, that's piece one of the backdrop. In terms of context, California has reached about 27% of its lands being conserved, and California has 16% of its ocean and coast conserved because of our incredible marine protected area network. However, California has not added any new marine protection since the 30 by 30 initiative was signed into law. And so that is the 30 by 30 piece. And then this is all occurring within the backdrop of the 10-year decadal management review for California's network of marine protected areas. As many of you know, California established a globally significant, really, it's that there are only 2 marine protected area networks in the world, and California has one of those 2. So California has 124 marine protected areas. They were designed using scientific guidelines, and now, after 10 years of monitoring, the state has come back and said, we know some things about how the network is performing. And they made a series of recommendations for how to adaptively manage the network. Adaptive management is many things, but most simply, the law that led to the establishment of the Marine Protected Area Network said, after 10 years, we're going to look at the network and see what changes may need to be made in order to better achieve the goals of the network. And so that is what's happening right now. There is a process where the state is adaptively managing its network, and the Fish and Game Commission is considering proposals that would either weaken the network or strengthen it. So NRDC and some sponsors, which Bella will detail, we have put forth 2 proposals to create new marine protected areas. And then, thanks, Bella, that's perfect. And just to let you know, the adaptive management guidance that the state has says that the adaptive management process should consider current ocean conditions and also future ocean conditions. So I wanted to just briefly share a bit. This could be a whole 1-hour presentation, but I'm just going to gloss over this so that we can get into the meat of the proposals. But what we do know about the state of California's ocean is that despite all these protections, there are many, many stressors that are threatening the overall habitat integrity. Sorry, Bella, can you go back just one more? The integrity of habitats and water quality, biodiversity, and key species. And so I just wanted to share this summary snapshot. This is NOAA's own data where they have evaluated California's 4 national marine sanctuaries, and they have said They have shown that overall, you can see that despite these protections, these areas aren't performing so well. And again, I could talk about why that is. However, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Okay, next slide, please. We also know that we can anticipate additional stressors on the ocean. Many of us were affected by the marine heat wave in 2014 through 2016. We know that those are expected to increase in both frequency and severity. We also know that there is increased shipping happening. There are harmful algal blooms. Plastic pollution is obviously a clear problem in our ocean. And then we also know that in California, there are plans for more industrial uses of the ocean through offshore wind, potentially tidal energy, desalination, etc. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. So much doom and gloom. We'll skip over this to give you all a break because it is Valentine's Day. However, okay, so there's lots of doom and gloom, but there are things that help to build resilience and protect our biodiversity. We know from the Decadal Management Review Report and that 10 years of monitoring data that California's network is actually performing pretty well. We know that in California's MPAs, there were bigger and more abundant fish and invertebrate, not in 100% of cases, but certainly in many cases. We also know from the large body of international science about MPAs, some of which has occurred, the science that has also occurred in California. We know that the larger an MPA is, the better it tends to perform. We also know that MPAs that have really strong protections perform really well and sort of confer higher likelihood of spillover effects where you get healthier adult fish that then can propagate and sort of have knock-on effects to outside of the MPA. And then finally, we know that in some of the California MPAs, they did bounce back after the marine heat wave. So there were MPAs in the California network that demonstrated attributes of resilience to some of the stressors of climate change. Next slide, please. So in terms of adaptive management, we know that we should be adaptively managing to consider current ocean conditions and then future threats. And we also see that there's an opportunity to improve upon the existing network. Way back when, during the Marine Life Protection Act process, where MPAs were being established, there was a science advisory team that provided guidelines for both the size of MPAs and the spacing of them. And over 90% of California's MPAs were smaller than the guidance recommended, and about 70% of them were further apart from each other, which means that there are compromises to how connected the MPA network can be. We also know that we're only at 10 years, which in the life of a complex marine ecosystem is actually quite short. And the science guidelines recommended that basically said that we can expect that it's going to take about 25 years to really get to see the full benefits of the network. Next slide, please. We'll skip this one so we can get to you, Bella. Great. And so now I'm going to turn things over to Bella, who's going to talk about the first of NRDC's 2 MPA proposals. Go ahead, Bella.
Yeah, thank you so much for that background, Sandy. It was really, really helpful and definitely good context to know as I sort of go into what the meat of our proposals actually are. As Sandy just said, our first proposal is out at Point Sal. I'm sure many of you have been there, but I also have some nice photos that I took on a trip recently last week, just to sort of give context a bit. But yeah, basically the proposed Point Sal MPA proposal, here's some other photos, here's sort of a map of where it actually is. So the actual coastline is about 3.2 miles. And you're probably wondering, like, why this specific spot? It was actually proposed in the first MLPA. And additionally, it is a very important climate zone in terms of habitat connectivity. And essentially, Point Sal has a lot of different sort of habitats within it. It's also known to be a larval retention zone, given the way that the currents and the wind work with the larvae. So in terms of trying to make sure that the MPA network is able to have this connectivity, this is one of the reasons why we see Point Sal as a very important spot. It's relatively undisturbed right now, and we think it's really great if it stays that way. But additionally, Point Sal is also known to be a sea lion haul-out spot, and is also really important in terms of this one rock called Lion Rock that's right out there, where different sea lions and birds like to gather on it. So making sure that that place can stay undisturbed for those specific animals is really important. And I put some other photos in here. Here's a photo I took last week when I was out there, and you can see some of the sea lions just sort of splashing around in the water. So this zone is just like teeming with life, really incredible. I'm sure for those folks that have been out there, you know exactly what I'm saying. But essentially, on the tribal co-management and access piece, obviously Point Sal is in Chumash lands, and we've been sort of in conversation right now, renaming it to a Chumash place name to sort of highlight that important connection. And additionally, we are not specifying co-management directly in our petition, but we are encouraging the state to be having these consultations with tribes if this MPA were to get implemented. Which leads us sort of to our next MPA, called the Mishapshino MPA. And this MPA, we are co-sponsoring with the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians and the Environmental Defense Center, a more local organization in Santa Barbara. And essentially, kind of on the same vein as Point Sal, this zone, one of the reasons we're trying to designate as a marine protected area is because it is extremely important to a lot of different types of juvenile species. Specifically, it's an aggregation zone for juvenile white sharks. And you know, I'm sure as you've heard before, but like bycatch with sharks is a huge problem in areas where there's lots of fishing. So trying to ensure that we're protecting this really, really special area to make sure that these juvenile species have the chance to be able to grow into adulthood and maturation. But yeah, essentially this marine protected area similarly was proposed during the MLPA many, many years ago due to its place within the California coast. And so this specific marine protected area would be filling a gap in the network and ensuring that that connectivity that, you know, Sandy was talking about, how when the marine protected area network was created, it was created to have it be just that, working together as a network. So this would fill the gap in the network. And additionally, let's see. Yeah, sorry. Kind of just went over that. Additionally, like there's many different types of habitats similar to Point Sal that are found in sort of just this one little pocket of coastline. So being able to ensure that we can protect, you know, kelp forest, like sandy beaches, all these different things just in this small pocket of square mileage, ensuring that we have resilience for future stressors, future climate events, which, you know, as we've been seeing are becoming more and more common, is really important. And then additionally, this MPA that we're proposing with the Santa Ynez Band would seek to enhance Chumash co-management and access of the area. So that kind of, what does that actually mean? You know, that means it would have tribal take. Same with our other MPA, Point Sal also is tribal take. But B, in our conversations with tribes in the area, other than just the Santa Ynez. There's a lot of non-federally recognized tribes, and so we wanted to make sure that tribal access means access to all tribal people, not just ones that are federally recognized. And so because of that, this marine protected area would allow for rec fishing from shore, and also we're exploring additional rec fishing from non-motorized watercrafts. So that what is actually, does that mean? That means that not just federally recognized members, but also members of just the rec fishing community too, would be able to partake in those activities that are so important to them. And additionally, you know, we're talking about co-management. So the Santa Ynez Band, they're sort of in the very beginning stages of deciding what this co-management would actually mean for the region. Some conversations we've had have looked into sort of like monitoring programs and things like that, but really ensuring that this place, which is named after a Chumash village right in the area, Mashopshno, it's a historical Chumash Tamal boat building site. So like historically, this place has been a place where the land and sea, you know, are connected. And so wanting to uplift and honor that in this marine protected area is one of our biggest goals. And additionally,
Ella, sorry can I add just one more piece about that?
Yeah, please.
Just because it's relevant. In California's implementation of 30 by 30, it has 4 key strategies. And one is adaptive management of the MPA network. And then another strategy is to advance tribally led conservation. And that we see, obviously, us co-sponsoring with Santa Ynez, and as Bella's talking about, sort of exploring what meaningful co-management would actually look like, we see as just an example of kind of that 4th piece of 30 by 30 implementation. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you, Sandy. That was really helpful. Essentially, I'm going to just sort of jump into the last sort of blurb about, you know, Sandy's been talking about this process, and our petitions are due in about a month, our petition amendments. So the past year or so, we've been reaching out to, you know, all sorts of stakeholders, people in the rec fishing community, tribal members, just like businesses, local people all throughout Santa Barbara, and trying to have conversations more to help inform us about, you know, what should these petitions look like. So that we'll sort of get into that later when we're, you know, answering questions and asking you guys if you have any feedback, but that's definitely something we're interested in hearing about as we're sort of coming to the final amendments within our petitions. But let's see. I think that really concludes most of what I was gonna say on that. But yeah,
Good.
we would love to open it up to any questions, and here are emails too. I'm sure if you have more thoughts that you would like to share with us. It looks like someone named Hank is unmuted, so I'm not sure if you're trying to hop in here, but yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Oh.
I can add just one more piece before we jump into Q&A. In terms of process, there are a number of petitions that have been submitted. We see these as far from certain. And so we're really seeking both input from the community in terms of what sort of adjustments they would be interested in seeing. As Bella mentioned, we are in active conversations about both with members of the community in terms of sort of what amendments we would want to propose. And then what we would really be like incredibly grateful for and excited about would be that if there are organizations or SBCAN itself that wanted to support either one of the petitions or both, or potentially even be a co-sponsor of the Point Sal one, we would be very excited about that. And then one other piece I just wanted to note in terms of outreach is that even though we have been working diligently on it, we have clearly missed key stakeholders. And so that's why I'm really glad that Jamie Diamond's on the call, and Ava and Tamara. Hopefully I'm getting your names correctly. We had a meeting where we shared a bunch of, a very similar presentation at the Santa Barbara Collaborative meeting a few months ago, and there were many people there, and I did my best to follow up on some of the names that I got there, but I was not able to sort of get the full list of everyone that was there. So anyway, it's just great to have the opportunity to connect with some of those people now. And anyway, we're eager to keep these conversations going.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation. And the reason why we are having this roundtable is because you and Bella and a couple of your associates approached us and asked for SBCAN to support this project. So we took it to our board, and they said they'd like to know more information, and they wanted to hear any concerns as well. And so that's why we're glad that we have people who will express their points of view. And that's where we're going to go now. We'll start taking questions. And if you will raise your hand like Ava has, then I can go to you. And there's down at the bottom, and I see you raising your hand, Whitney, but if you can find your, somebody help me here. There's a
I
place
don't see a raise your hand icon.
Yeah, I don't see it either, and I know that it's usually there. I think they've probably put it in a different place. Okay,
There are
so I'll
also
look for raise-
questions in the chat, Jeannie.
Yeah, and it's under React is where you can hit the raise hand. And yeah, Mark Bradley's got a couple of questions.
Yeah, okay, so there's a little React. If you hit the React button, it'll give you the option to raise your hand. And that way it'll put you in the order that you've raised your hand. Will make it easier for me to make sure that everybody gets called. So let's go to Ava. Go ahead and make your comment or your question.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, because my radar went off when you said that you have been reaching out to stakeholders, Bella, because that collaborative meeting took place in August. And I know that we're all super busy. Like, I have total respect for what you guys are doing, but I do think that there have been plenty of opportunities and ample time to reach out to the commercial fishing community. We haven't heard from NRDC once. We have board meetings every month that it would be great to have you present and just sort of, get feedback for your amendment process if possible. So, I hate to be contrarian, but it's like, it just seems like you've only reached out to people that could further benefit your proposal. And I don't think that that's necessarily fair or holistic. So
Okay,
that's just.
So I understand your comment there, and we are short on time, so I think Sandy has probably registered that. We do have another board. I want to make a couple of comments. We have another board member here, Janet Blevins, and so our board members are going to be taking their thoughts back to our board on this, and the board will also be able to see the video. So Ava, would you like to express what some of your concerns are so that we can have that to tell our board?
Sure, just that feedback from the commercial fishing community, from the community that makes their livelihood on these areas, have not been reached out to. And it's been over a year. I mean, this petition was initially submitted in November of 2023. We had the MPA collaborative meeting in August of 2024. I found out about this meeting yesterday from a friend who submitted a petition himself. We haven't been notified, we haven't been reached out to, and I think that that's not really giving us a fair chance to work collaboratively and respectfully with one another. I think that what that does instead is it breeds really stark opposition from one another, and that's just not what we need to have. We don't need to be adversaries. So yeah, just trying to be a proponent of adaptive management and collaboration whenever possible. That's my primary concern.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Whitney.
Yeah, What I'd like to kind of go over real quickly is it was noted that Newsom did an executive order on 30 by 30. Back in 2019, AB 3030 was going through the legislative process, and there was a lot of concerned citizens. So we raised our opposition to the bill, mainly based on the science that was being used to craft the bill seemed to be very, very nebulous. And because of the public input, the bill was pulled and never made it through committee for vote. 6 weeks later, it was an executive order that was put it on the book. So that was one thing we were concerned about. In 1999, the Cal Marine Life Protection process started. 2012, it was implemented with a lot of give and take with the working groups that crafted out the MPAs. In that process, in the last minute, Naples Reef which was never originally considered, was put in as a marine protected area on the premise that, or on the concession that Carpinteria Reef would stay open for the livelihood of the local communities, the people that like to do subsistence fishing, and the sports fishing fleet because it's close to Santa Barbara Harbor. One other thing about Carp Reef, currently everybody, whether you're a recreational fisherman or a tribal member, you have the right to fish it right now. There is no exclusion to you. If the MPA for carp goes into place, it is excluded for everybody else to use except for the indigenous, which seems to be a little bit unfair, especially when the process was that Carpinteria would stay open for everybody. And if you want a little bit more background information, Jason Johns was a scientist, did an article in The Independent. He was part of the original working group, and he says in the last 10 years with the Decadal Review, they haven't really met the marks as far as the MPA as being a protected area. Excuse me, that was Ray Hilborn. Jason Johns is a conservation scientist. He reviewed a lot of the current petitions and said they don't meet the criteria. The other thing is, for the last 15 years, I worked with United Way, funding the Sun Summer Youth Program. I take kids from Carpinteria, Santa Barbara, Goleta, Guadalupe, and San Ynez out fishing to teach them to be stewards of the resources and enjoy the outdoors. We also have taken groups that surf fish on Carpinteria Beach, and if that becomes an MPA, then you can't fish from the coastline out. And if you really want to have a marine protected area, you shouldn't be able to walk on the sand because you're killing a lot of organisms. And it seems like we're just taking into a fact that we're just precluding the harvest of larger animals. The other thing I'm really concerned with, I believe the MPA process is flawed, and it's flawed in this respect. Currently, we have 16% of our coastline that are marine protected areas. If we go to another 14%, you will have 30% of the coastline in marine protected, which sounds really wonderful. But if you look at the bigger picture, that means 30% is closed, 70% is open. Of the 70% of the ocean coastline that's open, it's lack of structure. It's devoid. It's a lot of it's open sand. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be pushing the people that have the opportunity to fish recreational and commercial into that 70%, but that 70% does not hold good structure. So the structure that holds the fish and the biomass will be hammered, and it's self-fulfilling because the 30% that's protected will be vibrant and the 70% that's open is not. So then the push would be to close even more areas into marine protected areas until you consume more and more in the protected areas and people lose their livelihoods. Recreational fishermen won't be able to harvest for subsistence. So I believe that the better thought process might be that you maybe want to get behind is why not rotate the marine protected areas on a 10 to 15 year basis. In that instance, no one area will be hammered into submission and the closed out protected areas will be vibrant. The other thing about the spillover effect is most of the fish that are in the marine protected are homebodies. They don't travel that far. On rare occasions, you'll have one species that has one or less and he'll move. But essentially, everything stays within a small radius of the protected area. They don't really spill over. The only fish that are spilling over is mainly pelagic fish that travel through the different areas. So That's, oh, one other thing. There's a big economic impact that goes on with this. Currently, in 2022 was estimated at $3.5 billion to $5 billion were generated by recreational fishermen in the state of California, supporting 37,000 jobs. In the 24th district alone in 2022 was estimated that $65 million was generated from just the recreational fishermen. I'm not talking commercial fishermen, just recreational fishermen. So there's a big impact. A lot of people do augment their food income by being able to fish. So I think conservation is just a great deal, but it should be based on great science. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Whitney. Appreciate that. Jamie.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jamie Diamond. I own Stardust Sport Fishing in Santa Barbara. We are the sport fishing boats that take the people out to the ocean to fish. Most people don't have their own boat. And so we are ocean access for most people. And I just want to say hi, Janet. I usually see you on a Zoom for school board stuff. And I am partially wearing my hat for this as well, because Carpinteria is a proposed area, and a closure of fishing in that area would directly impact many of our families who rely on access to the ocean for subsistence fishing. We also even have a after-school program at the middle school that teaches kids that are both, we have special education students, we have at-risk youth, and definitely low-income youth who participate in this after-school program to learn about sustainable fisheries, ecosystem, the ecosystem of the tidal habitats, environmental stewardship. And it's a really great program. And I'm not saying that would necessarily in and of itself go away, but these are the types of things that go on in our community, and our community has not been reached out to at all. And I'm speaking to SBCAN, not to the organizations that are here today presenting, because we were not reached out to by them. I'm speaking as a resident of Santa Barbara County and as a representative of my industry to SBCAN and my thoughts and feelings about this. So as the location that that most recreational fishing occurs from in Santa Barbara Harbor, there has not been outreach to my organization or to our industry, similarly as Ava has spoken of. And that's really disheartening, because the applicants were directed quite specifically to ensure that they were doing adequate outreach. I'd also like to point out that MPAs, and this has been clear through the whole MPA decadal management review process, are not a means to 30 by 30. And Jen Eckerly from OPC has, who is leading the ocean side of 30 by 30, has also stated that MPAs are not the means to 30 by 30. Yes, they count into it, but this process right now is not being used as that vehicle. They're looking at a lot of other issues, because the things that affect our ocean, I'd say our biggest issue, and I believe we can all agree on this, is water pollution, the runoff from our watersheds. I don't know about you, but I can swim next to near a boat fishing. I can't go swimming after it rains at the beach. And so to me, that's the biggest threat to biodiversity in our area. Some other issues that I'd like to bring up with the applications is the fact that there were 27 recommendations from the Decadal Management Review. I was there for what Fish and Game Commission called MPA Day, and the MRC committee the day after. And the expectation of these petitions was to be clarifying waypoints, maybe making things square polygons because it cut into pier fishing access, or it was difficult for enforcement, or changing color coding on the mapping, changing some of state marine reserves to state marine conservation areas. But it was not intended to be a giant multi-year process of petitioning for grossly expanded and entirely new MPAs. And I feel for the commissioners entirely, because they can't get to any of these other 27 priorities that were identified, because of petitions like this that, you know, and it's frustrating. I'd also like to point out specifically for Carpinteria Reef area, that is essentially the safest space for most small boat users to access. We take out veterans, we take out special education students, family and their families on fishing trips, and Carpinteria Reef is the closest and safest kelpie and rocky reef habitat on the coast by Santa Barbara Harbor, because all of the others are in MPAs, Campus Point and further, pretty much. So we go down and take most of our half-day trips, which are first-time fishermen. We also have lots of skiff fishermen, not from my boats, but in general, that leave from Santa Barbara Harbor. And we're talking, you know, 16-foot aluminum skiffs. They can't make a channel crossing. They don't have the money for the fuel, and a vessel like that has no business crossing the channel to go fishing. And so Carpinteria Reef is a significant use point, but to also that point, it is resilient and it is thriving. And I also want to speak to the white shark point that was brought up. That's a bit of a false flag. The white sharks are there, yes. There is not a problem with interactions with white sharks off of Santa Claus Beach. I'm also on the Channel Islands Sanctuary Council, and we had a presentation from the Low Lab and that does the research on the white sharks there, and they quite explicitly stated that they did not see any impacts to white sharks from surf fishermen interactions, and that is not a permanent juvenile white shark area. It's actually been extraordinarily longer than usual area with the white sharks, and now they're starting to see them go down to the Orange County area, and that is more typical, is that white sharks are cyclical and move around, and it's actually quite abnormal is what they said, that they've been around for so long. But these are just a handful of points in a few minutes that I can share with you, and to explain that this is not the right tool. Closing fishing access is the only permanent thing this really does. And if we want to talk about biodiversity, if we want to talk about water quality and things that will actually make meaningful change and protections for our kelp, whether it be kelp restoration or enhancement projects, I am all in for that. Actually, a group of fishermen from Carpinteria that I've been a part of their club for 16 years. We do a no motor tournament every year, and we raise money. All the money that's raised from fishing off Santa Claus Beach there gets donated to the Land Trust of Santa Barbara for salt marsh restoration right there. And so we are deeply invested in the health of the ecosystems, the habitat, and the fisheries of that area. And I just want to highlight yet again that there has been no meaningful outreach whatsoever to Carpinteria or the fishermen, recreational fishermen in the area by these petitioners. And I just hope SBCAN can understand that. Nobody wants to say, I don't want to do something to protect the ocean. And I understand that you're probably going to write some type of support letter because that is your purpose. And I understand that, but I also hope you take into account the fact that this is not a one size fit all solution. And the due diligence hasn't been done. And so we're not saying don't protect the ocean, even though that may be what our words get turned into, because that's not what it is. And I hope you understand that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jamie. Alan.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for your statements and your questions. I think I have a lot of questions too. Just a reminder, I am a board member of SBCAN, and so I definitely want to learn more about the commercial aspects. You know, I am a native local of Guadalupe and Santa Maria. Unfortunately, I don't have any background in commercial fishing, so that is a blind spot for me. But in terms of what your presentation was on, you mentioned a lot of outreach and co-management with the Chumash tribes. And you spoke a lot about the biodiversity and its impact to the watershed here and just the quality of life here. That, I think, for me is an area that I would love to learn more about. I think that's kind of where I would love to hear what the feedback has been. I think right now I heard from 3 people from Carpinteria, you know, some that have done a variety of work with community members, commercial fishing and other stuff. And so, yeah, I guess this is definitely something that I'm learning a lot too. And I do want to know what the impact is to commercial fishing, but I especially would love to learn more about the community feedback that you've received.
Okay. Airstone.
I just wanted to mention, in terms of outreach, we had the pleasure of meeting, myself and the city administrator met with Bella Sullivan to go over the project, and also she's connected to the Guadalupe Business Association. So we want to learn more about it, and she's going to present, or someone's going to present to the actual city council and the Guadalupe Business Association to let more people know what's going on. And we appreciate that outreach to Guadalupe.
Thank you, Airstone. Tamara. Tamara, I don't know if you're speaking, but
sorry about that. I had to find the unmute.
Okay.
I want to agree 100%. Well, a lot of what Whitney said, but for sure, Jamie Diamond. I've known her for a long time. I've enjoyed going out on her boats. They're very, I don't know anybody else who actually is so passionate about the ocean, and she's involved in so many things, and she just is. I agree. I didn't hear anything about this. I think there has to be a lot more discussion. There has to be more time. I can just see from the people that have reached out and come to the meeting already that there's a lot of concerns, and I just think it would be really sad if we don't get more of a chance to discuss this before anything is implemented. There's a lot of people, we all love the ocean. We do want to see how, to keep it, the sustainability of it and everything, but there has to be somewhat of a balance too. And I just feel like, more people have to know and voice their concerns so that there's a clear picture of, what this is really all about. And I guess that's it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Maybe Sandy and Bella would like to respond to any of the comments.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for the good questions. I have a list of all of the feedback and then also responses to them. There's not enough time to go through everything. I think two things that I would.
More responses?
I think this is our opportunity to respond, just because we've been hearing some feedback, and I just wanted to respond to a few things directly before we have to close. But I'd love to hear your comment in the last minute. Okay, in terms of outreach that we've done, we have had 3 trips down to the area. We're coming back the last week of February. We would be very happy to meet with anyone to have longer conversations. I wanted to just address the fishing outreach point directly. I'm so sorry that we have not been able to connect. We, at the Santa Barbara Collaborative meeting, it was mostly fishermen that were there. I followed up multiple times with the MPA collaboratives asking for the full list of folks that had attended, and they didn't feel comfortable sharing email addresses and names of people that had been there because they felt like that was not their information to share. So I have not had access to the individuals that were at that meeting. And then I also just wanted to say that we 3 organizations are co-sponsoring, 2 organizations and 1 tribal nation is co-sponsoring the Mashapshno MPA. And so our colleague at EDC, Asia Hudson, my understanding is that she has reached out to the businesses at Santa Barbara Landing. I myself went to Santa Barbara Landing in August and chatted with a couple of folks there. And so anyway, there has been attempts at outreach there, but we clearly need to do more, and we will very much take that to heart. And then another thing I just wanted to note is that currently the coast of California is open. 84% of that ocean is open to commercial fishing, and 91% of the coast is open to recreational fishing. And it is a well-established fact that when there are protections in certain areas, that you'll see areas rebound, you see bigger fish, the ocean is healthier. And it's our, not only NRDC's position, but there is agreement that there should be sort of areas that where we've reduced the human pressures of fishing and industrial use of the ocean, and MPAs are a tool. They're not the only tool, but they are a tool to help us get there. And then in terms of threats to biodiversity, there is, again, this is very well established in the scientific literature, but direct removal of biomass from the ocean through industrial fishing practices is the #1 driver of biodiversity loss in the ocean. And then there's also other, habitat loss through, say, oil and gas drilling, for example, that's a threat. Climate change is a threat. And of course, water pollution is a threat. But it's very clear just what kind of the order of threats to biodiversity is. And then, Bella, I just wanted you to have a chance to jump in about some of the outreach that you've done.
Yeah. So basically to follow up on Sunny's point, I've emailed over 40 businesses in the area, including Carpinteria. I've gone down there myself. I even called Santa Barbara Landing, and I think I might have spoken with you, Jamie, that you told me to just email you. But in terms of tribal outreach, we've been contacting and in touch with all Chumash tribes in the area, and sort of talking to them more about what they would like to see in these petitions, not only with our partners, the Santa Ynez Band, but also with the non-federally recognized tribes in the area to ensure that, like I said before, this isn't just a tribal MPA that only applies to federally recognized tribes. But additionally, this also would be the first state tribal MPA that California has. And I really want to underscore the importance of what that would mean in terms of tribal marine stewardship, which, is like a very sort of up and coming way that we're thinking about conservation. And I, think it's pretty incredible. But yeah, and we're going to be going down to Santa Barbara again in 2 weeks. And sort of like Sandy said, would love to meet with people in person. Thank you so much again for all of your comments and your concerns. We really, really want to let you know how important it is for us to hear all of this. And yeah, like Sandy said, specifically with the commercial fishing industry, we understand that was a mistake on our part, and we want to acknowledge that. So we're happy to meet with you guys when we're in town in 10 days. So we'll be in touch with you on that. And then additionally, in terms of outreach, just lots of calling, lots of emails. I've been on the forefront of that for a bit now. And it's been really, really awesome to get to talk to folks about this. Really cool to be able to be more, see what people are thinking and all of that. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk and work with people in the community.
So thank you. We're going to take 1 or 2 more questions. We have another topic that we want to talk about as well, so we'll wrap it up. But I want to ask Jeff for his comments, and then I think our board member Janet Blevins wanted to make some comments. So go ahead, Jeff.
Hank Goldman would like to make some comments also, please.
Okay, you can comment after Jeff.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Jeff. Yes.
But yeah, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I just like to encourage Santa Barbara CAN not to issue or provide any letters of support to this organization. My experience as a commercial fisherman in the Marine Life Protection Act 10 years ago is that the Nature Conservancy, Environmental Defense Fund, the big billion-dollar environmental organizations, they roll into town, tea and coffee, over chit chats, and then they do their work behind the scenes. In my experience, having 40 years as a sea urchin diver, 20,000 miles underwater, believe me, I've seen the changes and I know the oceans are changing, but they are cyclical and some areas are bouncing back while others aren't. What I've done on the heels of this MLPA and the marine reserves that we have now that exist at San Miguel Island, for instance, I've outreached to the Nature Conservancy. I've outreached to Environmental Defense Fund. I've had the Dean of Bren at UCSB over at the House saying, hey, what are we going to do about these dead marine reserves? And basically what they're doing is the science that you hear about doesn't really portend to what's going on in some of these marine reserves. And with their urchin barrens, there's no kelp, there's no minimal biodiversity. I videoed it and I have it on my YouTube channel. And I just really don't trust them. They roll into town, they'll be gone. And when it comes time for adaptive management, which is written into the Marine Life Management Act, nothing there. They won't help us to restore these ecosystems. They just close it down. And so commercial fishing is managed by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So is sport fishing. And their task is to manage it sustainably. And we have to have that faith in them and their science to manage our fisheries sustainably. And for commercial fishermen to be able to provide food to their community and sport fishermen to be able to have recreational opportunities. And with regard to carp reef, I think in terms of the people that I know that live in Los Angeles that come up and they cast a rod into the ocean, and a family people that want to catch a fish with their son, they want to experience that. And if it gets shut down, there's a loss of tourism. They might go somewhere else, and there goes a big part of the bonding and the father-children relationship that comes from a healthy interaction and providing food for the family. So I just wanted to say that what I advocate is for these NGOs, the billion-dollar ones, to deal with non-point and source point pollution, the stuff that's running down the rivers right now, as in Los Angeles. They should be screening and cleaning and neutralizing these construction materials that are on the beaches down there. They should be monitoring these rivers, streams, and lakes, and encouraging that our treated sewage is processed to a quaternary level rather than a tertiary level that puts this filthy water in the ocean from communities. So I think there's a role for them. It's not in coming into our town from Michigan and telling us whether we can or can't fish, and then they're gone, and there's no follow-up for the oceans.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. That's
yeah. We're going to have to move on. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Hank, please go ahead.
Hank Coble here up in Santa Barbara. I've been a commercial fisherman, a sports fisherman for over 40 years. I'm also involved with the CCA, Coastal Conservation Association, as the vice president of the local chapter, and also chairman of the board or local Elks organization. I've had the opportunity to participate in the UCSB program, fishing inside and outside the kelp studies for the last 3 years. And I found several things that have come to light. Going back originally to statements about the MPA at Naples, yes, that was a giveaway except for spear fishermen, but we agreed to keep Carpinteria open. I had a chance to attend the August meeting. It was very contentious. One of our representatives from the Chumash, and I'm looking at my notes, felt that, and this quote was, that the fish belong to the Chumash at the Carpinteria, and God gave them to them. And that's a direct quote from a Chumash representative. It generated a lot of controversial conversation. I have the opportunity to also be involved with our kelp restoration project with Chris Goldblatt on one of the chase boats, and I take the divers every month to monitor the progress. We put the caves, 16 caves in between Goleta Pier and UCSB Point. Happy to report we have 48 feet of kelp growth at this point. The caves were put in 38 feet depth. So that program is a success. Chris is in the process of applying for additional licensure and grants to put in more caves to help establish the kelp that was destroyed way back when. So I am not in support of additional MPAs. I think the MPAs should be on a rotational basis. When I hear 25 years as a time frame to study, well, you're taking about a generation of fishermen out of the mix, so to speak. So 10 years was the original presentation that it would be looked at, reviewed, and led us to believe it was rotational. That has not happened. So I just want to let you know that we can maintain fishing management different ways by type of species, amount, and size, and that has currently been implemented in some of the species, and I think that's a good way to help preserve. The coastal runoff and the contaminants going to our ocean, I think also are the major factor. I want to say thank you for your time, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Hank. And I'm going to call in Janet Blevins, who's one of our board members at SBCAN.
Thanks so much. I have learned so very much. And when I entered this meeting, I thought, well, of course I want to protect the ocean. Why wouldn't I? And now I have absolutely no idea. I need to know much, much more. I love hearing from everybody who is directly involved with fishing and other and boating and other endeavors on the ocean. And I am nowhere near being able to make a decision about whether or not I would support this. Thank you very much. I do donate to the National Resources Defense Council, if that's who you are. But you know,
this for your support.
You're welcome. But this has been a wonderful forum. I am impressed with the number. We've never had this many people at a meeting, I don't believe. So thank you all. But be assured that we're not ready to make any sort of endorsement.
Thank you, Janet. And I want to apologize that we didn't get the information out to the commercial and sports fishermen. We tried to, and we were late at doing that, but I'm glad you guys have found us. And this is the beginning of a conversation for us. We appreciate Sandy and Bella being here to talk with us. There's information in the chat, but I can't go over it all. But thank you for your comments in there. And we're going to turn to our second topic now. And
first, I want to say to Jamie, who sent me a message, I don't know why you know me from the school board, but anyway, I wish I were still on it. My term has ended, and I wish I were still on it.
Okay, so I want to thank you again, Sandy and Bella. I know you put a lot of time into this, so I guess I would just give you just a moment if you'd like to say any last comments before we go to our next topic.
Thanks so much for having us, and we appreciate the feedback, and we're really excited about the opportunity that both of these proposals could offer to the coast. We have a lot of follow-up materials that we're happy to share with folks, and Bella shared her email address, and we're happy to continue the conversations. We know that an hour and 10 minutes is not that much time.
Yes, and our two board members who are here plus staff will report back to the rest of the board to decide what actions we'll do next, if any. So we really appreciate all this information.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to go to our next topic, which is Save Our Sanctuaries, a new effort by Sierra Club. And I better not say anything more because I don't know enough. So I'm going to ask Jim Hines to explain it to us. Jim, thank you for being here.
Jeannie. Thank you for having me. My name is Jim Hines. I live in the city of Ventura, and I work for the Sierra Club on developing a number of campaigns across the Western United States to protect national public lands and waters. And some I work for the local Sierra Club chapter, which is the Ventura Santa Barbara chapter, encompassing the two counties. includes protections of the 2 national marine sanctuaries off our coast. Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, which lies off the coast of Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, and the newly designated Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary, which extends from roughly the off the federal waters off the Gaviota coast of Santa Barbara County all the way up to almost Morro Bay and encompassing federal waters off the coast of San Luis Obispo counties. Chumash Heritage is brand new, little over 3 months old, designated in the last couple months of the Biden administration. There's a number of threats to national marine sanctuaries across our nation. They're on all coasts across our nation, and several are in the Great Lakes region. But the current presidential administration wants to dissolve national marine sanctuaries. And I know many people on here that I do know, along with thousands of others that spent almost 20 years getting the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary designated. A lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of endless trips to Washington, a lot of public hearings locally and elsewhere regarding this issue. And ocean protection is very important to the people of Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties. And I spent a lot of time in our nation's capital, interacting with various members on both sides of the aisle, United States Senate and United States House, as well as presidential administrations, including the current presidential administration, who's brand new, of course. And I've been talking to people about the efforts to disband something called NOAA. For those of you who are not familiar with NOAA, it's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, a federal agency that houses a number of agencies. Most popular and well known is the National Weather Service, but it also houses the Office of National Marine Fisheries, which protects fisheries in federal waters, including marine mammals and whales, among others. It also houses the Office of the National Marine Sanctuary Program. Kind of an interesting place, NOAA. And anyway, the administration has set its sights on dissolving NOAA and dissolving all of its agencies, including the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. Layoffs are started. The DOGE operation, Department of Government Efficiency, has spent several weeks inside the computers of NOAA, deleting all references and studies related to climate change that NOAA has done on our nation's oceans, including the 25-year plus Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. The Chumash Heritage is so brand new, they haven't really started to do anything yet. They're still struggling to get established. Congress is set to receive a request from the presidential administration to fund the Chumash Heritage and perhaps all the sanctuaries for $1 per fiscal year. It's a political ploy that other administrations have tried to do to agencies they don't like. So I started a campaign for the Sierra Club called Save Our Sanctuaries, SOS. And we're working with various elected officials, people locally and people within Washington, D.C. to buffer these actions from taking place. And then number two, the most powerful tool we have is citizen actions, making the public aware of these things. The actions of the current presidential administration and the DOGE operation, the DOGE task force, are much behind the scenes. I find things out by intermingling with many staff people on the House Committee on Natural Resources, the congressional committee that oversees the U.S. Department of Interior and all other natural resource related management agencies of the federal government, including the National Marine Sanctuaries Office. And we've been working closely with locally here, Congressman Carvajal's office. He represents, of course, half of Ventura County, all of Santa Barbara County and San Luis Obispo County, and the sanctuaries lie off his district. And we also are working very closely with the House Natural Resources Committee in Washington, D.C. And I have several contacts with several of the new staff members in NOAA. So we'll be able to gather information, organize, and prevent some of these things from happening. And when Jeannie asked me if I would speak to you about it, I wanted to spread the word to all of you who are interested in ocean protection, which seems to be quite a dominant subject here today. So that's about all I have to say at the moment.
So I would like to open it up if anybody has any questions for Jim or comments.
I'd just like to say thank you, Jim. You have been a rock for the Sierra Club and all that you have done to protect national parks and everything that you do. Thank you so much.
Janet. You've been a great source in North County too, as well, for our chapter, and we have a lot of work to do in 2025.
Thank you, Janet. Jamie.
Hi, I want to be very clear that I am not just an angry fisherman, stereotype that most people think. So as I mentioned, I am actually part of the Channel Islands Sanctuary Advisory Council, and I'm very familiar with NOAA because NOAA Fisheries governs all of the fisheries, well, 90 different stocks of fish off of the west coast of the United States, and I am intimately involved with that fisheries management process. And I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing, because NOAA Fisheries, for me especially, but NOAA Fisheries and NOAA in general is incredibly important, and sanctuaries are incredibly important. I did support the Shumash sanctuary designation, and I worked with Bill Duros, the previous West Coast administrator for sanctuaries, to ensure that the intent that the Shumash applicants had to ensure commercial and recreational fishing would, as long as it was legal and lawful and managed under the council's authority properly, would be allowed. And Sarah Fengman, who is the new West Coast administrator for sanctuaries, she's actually homegrown. She came out of Channel Island Sanctuaries here and as a researcher, and is now the director of sanctuaries. So it's really exciting that she's come back to us. And so thank you for the work you're doing right now. NOAA is vitally important. And so, yeah, I just want to say thank you. It's very difficult to be straddling that, like, as the feeling kind of caught in the middle between state and federal, and then the different sides of federal things going on right now. It's a very tight rope for us to walk and be caught in the middle of turf wars, if you will. So thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple hours ago, I spoke with Mike Mobley. He's the superintendent of
Chris
Mobley. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you probably will be talking about this at one of your future sanctuary advisory committee meetings, but he's very concerned too about, and everybody's confused at the low level. They're not confused at the presidential level of destroying NOAA, but they're confused at the local office levels of the sanctuaries. And he's concerned about staff layoffs and cutback in studies and protection of the ocean. So he's aware of it, but like so many employees who are being fired on a daily basis now, they really have to kind of keep their head down. So we are their voice. And we talked about some things that he can't do, would like to do, but cannot do, but we can do as citizen activists. And we're doing them. We're going to do them.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on this topic? Thank you, Jim. Keep in touch with us and let us know what's next and how we might be involved. Okay, now I'm going to turn it to other topics that anybody might want to talk about. Are there issues, announcements, events, anything that anybody would like to bring up? Please just raise your hand and we'll go to whoever raises their hand first. Janet.
Just a shout out that we won at the Board of Supervisors, or at the Planning Commission, to block Lompoc Oil from their ridiculous desire to start pumping again and pulling up hard crude, thick crude, heavy crude, whatever you want to call it, crude. It's all crude oil. And this is not the time to restart any kind of oil project, especially with climate change finally reaching the county that we all love so much. it's just obscene for these people to think they can do that, and for the energy department head to declare a mitigated negative declaration, which meant which we had to appeal so that there would be an environmental report about the effects and that people could make comments on it. I am absolutely appalled at Aaron Briggs, who is the head of our energy department, and I would love it for people to just write to him and say, what the heck do you think you're doing? Trying to restart a big oil project without an environmental impact report and without public comment. And Ken did a really good job at the meeting, and our lawyer, we had to hire legal help for this. So our organization is doing well, but we can always use more contributions. I hadn't intended to say that, but I just did.
Well, I'm glad you did, and so I'll chime in. Thanks, Janet. So Janet raised the alarm about this, and it's to restart pumping oil, but to put it in trucks and haul it 165 miles to Coalinga. They used to just pump oil in a pipe over to the Phillips 66 refinery, which closed because they're going to make biofuels.
And down Harris Grade Road and onto the one, which has been the scene of many, many fatal car accidents in recent months. It is our energy department head, Aaron Briggs, needs to be called on the carpet for this. So please feel free to write him a note and tell him how you feel about it.
And just to put this out here, the project was called Sentinel Peak. And as Janet mentioned, it's the Lompoc area, Lompoc Hills. So it was approved by county planning staff, and then we appealed, SBCAN appealed it. We were represented by Mark Shatillo, who did a great job, and Ken and Janet and other people who rallied to get it denied. But it's like they're going to come back with findings for denial, and then it's likely to be appealed to the Board of Supervisors. So we're probably not done with this issue. Linda.
Excuse me. Hello, I'm just making sure that you're aware of the South County event, which is going to focus on threats to immigrants and so on, organized by the League of Women Voters, and they've got some great speakers 2 weeks from yesterday. So it's February 27th at the Public Library downtown in the city of Santa Barbara, noon to about 1:30, I think. And it will be, I believe it's streamed live. We're definitely recording it in English and Spanish. So hopefully you can join us.
Thank you. Alan.
Yes, I wanted to mention a few things. Jamie Diamond actually mentioned this in the chat. Sable Offshore is trying to restart the oil plains pipeline. And so there's going to be a Count of Supervisors meeting on February 25th. There are going to be representatives from EDC. I will be there in person. Recently, there was a public community engagement where they talked a little bit about that project to the public in Santa Barbara. There will be time for public comment. So definitely trying to get turnout there. In particular, turnout for North County members. So that is an area where we would love more North County representation. As always, there can be a North County, South County, Mid-County divide. And so we really just want to work collectively. And additionally, separate from oil, the city of Santa Maria recently released their draft general plan update elements. And so they are using this month or the remainder 2 weeks to collect community feedback. So you can go to imaginesantamaria.com. They are hoping to have a study session on February 2nd at 1:30 at the library in Santa Maria Library in Shepherd Hall.
On what date?
February 2nd. Sorry, February 20th. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Next Thursday.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. Janet.
As far as the supervisors meeting for the pipeline reopening, restarting. The pipeline crosses Joan Hartman's property, so she will not be able to vote. So it will be a 2-2 vote. And that is not okay. So people in the North County really need to talk to Steve Lavagnino. I don't think there's any point in talking to Bob Nelson, but it wouldn't hurt. But maybe Steve Lavagnino can see the light on this.
So, yeah, it turns out, Janet, that a 2-2 vote actually is a denial. We thought otherwise until just recently. And we have met with, I've met with Steve along with EDC. They met with Nelson. I don't know how that went. I wasn't able to be in that meeting because I was fighting this other oil project at the Planning Commission at the time. So yeah, a 2-2 vote would be okay, but there's a lot of other places where this pipeline restart has to get shot down.
Right.
And so there's a huge meeting coming up on, we'll send out a lot of information about it to all of you. March 13th, I think, and it's the EDC worked really hard to get this meeting to happen. And so Secretary Wade Crowfoot from the Natural Resources, he's Secretary of Natural Resources. He's going to convene the meeting, and it involves the State Fire Marshal, State Lands Commission, and all the organizations in the state that have roles in approving or not approving the restart, the Coastal Commission as well.
So Ken, does that mean that some of the people that have already put their okay on this project are going to be reconsidering?
Yeah,
Because I know that the state fire marshal, for instance.
They made one okay, but not another okay.
Okay.
They granted a waiver, but there's still other stuff that they would have to do.
Good. Thank you.
And so I see Mark has his hand up. I'll sit back.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm just mentioning there is a plan for people to protest outside the government, the county administration building on Palmu Street on the 25th before the meeting, but I can't find exactly what time people are meeting, but maybe you can put out a notice on that.
And we will. And there's conversations about, well, what time is there going to be a rally, and what time are we going to encourage people to go in and try to save seats before all the hard hats come in to take up the seats for that.
You know, it has been a long time since we've seen that, hasn't it? Since we've seen the hard hats come in.
It has. It has been.
It has been 10 years.
I think it's going to happen this time, but we're worried that it will, and they'll take up all the seats because Sable can afford, to pay their staff to come in and take up seats and make this show. So, thank you.
Okay, any other topics or comments? We're right here at the end. We usually try to end up by 1:30, but we can take one or two more quickly, or otherwise we're just going to say Happy Valentine's Day. And
there are Black History Month celebrations both in Lompoc and Santa Maria. Lompoc's is this coming Sunday. Santa Maria's is next weekend. It would be good for people to attend those as well.
And we've sent out information on those. We'll send them again.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
And
Okay.
I just want to say I really enjoyed this meeting too. I'm hearing all these points of view and meeting Jamie Dimond and everybody else. And I think there's some common ground on some of this Sable oil stuff and restarting the platforms that we might have with the people that are making their livings out on the fishing in the ocean. I hope. Thank you.
And Alan and Janet, well, maybe we can talk at some other time how to approach the board on what we heard today about the proposed marine protected areas.
Yeah, what is the next step in that? I mean, is it
if
ready
we-
to go before the board?
If we wanted to support it, we needed to have something in by March 13th, so we could, we were going to contact our board members by email, but I think we should give them a report back one way or another, whether we want to support or we don't want to support, or we want more information. What do we want to do next? We need to let our board know what we think from having had this discussion today.
Definitely.
Yeah, Janet needed more information.
Yeah,
I still do. I am not ready to
Ditto.
say yes or no on that. Absolutely not.
I learned that I know nothing.
Yes, me too.
I know
So
nothing.
we're definitely, there's no, we won't be asking our board to support it now. Do we want to have arranged for further discussions, or what do we, or we can talk about this later? And try
Yeah.
Yeah,
what the next step will be.
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for having this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming.
Thank you, Whitney.
I really appreciate
Great to
your.
meet you too. Very good.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, this was a very, very, very good meeting. Thanks, Ginny and Ken.
And thanks,
Yeah.
Linda. You were a member last year. I wrote to you. I said, okay, 2025.
Yeah, I saw your message.
You've been a steady member for many, many years. So thank
Yes.
you. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll
Thank
close it
you.
now. All right. Have a good evening.